recap the weather a little bit. We are again looking great there. You see some blue skies. You see a little bit of partly cloudy in the background, but that's quite all right. And the weather here forecast again, we've updated that graphic for you. We've got some winds. Again, you kind of see the gaseous oxygen moving off the rocket. Again, that's just a result of the winds. Temperatures again, it's a really nice morning here on the Space Coast. The potential for clouds to be in the way is the main thing we were looking at, but as you see, less than 10% chance that that's going to be a problem this morning. So weather looking great. Technically, we're looking great. We should start to hear some more calls coming up in the next few minutes concerning the preparedness of the rocket and the spacecraft. Ultimately, that's kind of what's happening in these last few minutes. SpaceX does a late fuel. They like to fuel as late as possible to allow their cryogenics to be as cold as possible, so they can pack as much in there as densely as possible, so that does allow them to be able to have more performance. Because if you can pack more fuel in there, you have more performance opportunity. So that's great. We're playing catch up to the space station, like we've been saying all morning. Again, we're about 7.5 minutes away from liftoff. And right now, the space station is flying over the southern Pacific Ocean, headed up on a path that will take it over Central America, and then actually across the eastern portion of the United States. And we'll rendezvous again, as Dan said, Sunday morning is the plan for berthing. So exciting stuff there. The space station, again, thinking about kind of the capacity and ability. Think about the volume of a 6-bedroom house. So if you have a 6-bedroom home, that's roughly the amount of space that the astronauts have. They have the added benefit of being in microgravity, so they can use the walls and the ceiling freely because they don't have that feeling of gravity all the time. So maybe even feels bigger than a 6-bedroom house. That's roughly 33,000 cubic feet if you're interested in the numbers. The space station program involves more than 10,000 people in space agencies and 37 U.S. states and 16 countries. So a massive effort. Again, as we've been saying, a very exciting year for us, celebrating the 20th year of our sustained human presence in space. So if you're 18 years or younger, some of you 19, there has never been a time when we didn't have humans living and working in space. So again, we're tremendously proud of that. Looking ahead to some of the activities, things we're going to hear, we'll start to hear about things like engines being chilled and prepared to handle cryogenic fuels. That's obviously a big part of the process. You don't want to run cryogenic temperatures through atmospheric temperatured engines and engine bells. That can cause some problems. We'll also be hearing about the closing out of fueling and then changing things towards internal power as they check out all their systems for final liftoff here. Just to recap a little bit, some highlights we heard during our pre-launch briefing a couple of days ago. There's about 38 investigations that are going to be going up on this mission, 23 new ones and continuing the rest of them. And then they'll actually be returning home about 48 research projects. So it's never just about what's going up, it's also about what's coming down, because that benefit of getting to evaluate things here on the ground after they've been in space is a huge benefit. Over the course of our 20 years in space with sustained human presence, we've had about 2,900 investigations from 100 different countries. So when we say it's an international space station, we're very serious about that and very proud of it as well.
For strong back retract.
So strong back retract. So now we're getting into some really exciting things. Visually, in just a few seconds, you're going to see the clamp just beneath the trunk of the Dragon. The clamp will open, and then the transporter erector, or the strong back, the tower that's next to the Falcon, will actually tilt back. So if you look just beneath where that Dragon logo is, in just a few seconds, you should see that clamp begin to expand, and that tower will tip back slightly, just a few degrees for now, and then it will tip back later at liftoff. There you see the clamp opening. And it won't move very far, but you should see that tower next to the rocket tilt back just a few degrees. That tower primarily is responsible for delivering power, telemetry, and fuel to the vehicle during this process there. That's a great shot of watching that tower tip back. So after we do have liftoff this morning, you'll hear range, avionics, and propulsion engineers all making their own calls as we kind of track with this rocket uphill. The first stage's job is really to primarily get us out of the atmosphere, and the second stage is to deliver the Dragon to orbit.
Stage 1 lock flow closed out.
There's a liquid oxygen closeout call.
Stage 2 locks is closed out.
So we heard that first stage locks call just a minute ago, and that was the second stage locks closeout call as well. We should be hearing from the range as well, declaring we're good to go. They're in charge of public safety. Again, the physical area as well as the path of the rocket, so looking for potential for collisions upon launch. We're cleared those today. No concerns there. So everything is looking like we are go for launch.
Gas closeouts are starting.
We should get our final go for launch here from the launch director in just
Falcon
a
9
few
in
seconds.
startup.
Dragon is in startup. Go for launch.
There we have the call for go for launch. You also may see water beginning to flood the launch pad at about 18 seconds to go. It's very normal. That's part of the sound suppression system, all part of the engineering of launch.
That's 15 seconds. 10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Engines ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Cargo Dragon, transporting critical research to enable living and working in Earth orbit and in deep space.
Vehicle supersonic. Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
A couple big calls there. Again, all normal, all nominal, and progressing as expected, flying through the densest part of the atmosphere.
Recovery AOS. Back engine chill.
call for chilling the second stage engine.
Nico. Impact ignition. Stage 1, boost back burn is starting.
So very significant calls there. Successful separation of the first stage from the second stage. That second stage there you see on screen with the red hot engine that is now active and taking Dragon towards its correct orbit. And we saw the boost back burn begin and hear that call as well. So the Falcon is headed towards the drone ship there again off the coast of Jacksonville.
Stage 1, boost back burn is shut down.
Right now you're seeing the camera kind of flipping, and essentially you're seeing two camera views, one off. Oh, you actually just see the nose cone flew past there. That's a nominal jettison of the nose cone. There, it's a shot from the first stage. There's the hypersonic grid fins expanding to help control, to help steer, essentially, this rocket towards the drone ship.
Trajectory.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
So again, on that second stage engine, you're seeing two camera views, one on either side of that engine. It's a great side-by-side. Again, the primary objective today is to get Cargo Dragon to its correct orbit, and the secondary objective is to recover that Falcon booster landing on, of course, I Still Love You, about 185 nautical miles off the coast of Jacksonville. The camera on the left, I believe, is actually inside the top of the first stage, so you're getting kind of a view, a look at the top of that.
Stage 2 continues on nominal trajectory.
Again, we use that term nominal. That essentially just means that we're within the expected and appropriate range where we should be. So that all that means is that everything is going according to plan. All right, so a lot of work done, a lot more to go. We are still not there yet. We have to kind of progress through the spacecraft deploy, solar array deploy, and check out to make sure everything is in good order. But that is going to do it for us, for myself, from here in Hangar AE at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station Mission Director Center. So it's been a pleasure being with you today. Thanks so much. And I'm going to send it over to Andy in SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Andy?
Thanks, Joshua. In order to land our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean, the first stage needs to execute a series of 3 burns. The first is a boost back burn, which is meant to slow the rocket down and reorient it for re-entry. That just completed a few seconds ago. Next is the entry burn, where Falcon 9 slows itself down before hitting the dense parts of the atmosphere. Without this second burn, relying solely on the atmosphere to slow down Falcon 9 will put unnecessary strain on the rocket. Hopefully we can see some footage of that coming up shortly. The third and final burn is the landing burn, and there's the shot of the entry burn. The third and final burn is the landing burn, which happens just before touchdown. It provides the booster a soft descent to attempt landing, and this is also when the 4 landing legs were deployed. We're probably about a minute away from beginning that landing burn. Let's keep an eye on screen to see if we can see those engines relight. For this final burn, Falcon 9 uses just a single Merlin engine, the center engine, engine number 9. On the left-hand screen, you see a shot of the second stage continuing its journey into orbit. And on the right-hand side, it's a view from the top of the first stage. Those Griffins are helping to guide the first stage back to a targeted landing.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
And we did get confirmation that the landing burn did just start. That's a view from our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. As we get closer, watch for those landing legs to deploy.
Acquisition of signal New Hampshire. Stage 1 landing legs have deployed.
Looks like we may have lost the link of the footage. We're listening in to see if...
Stage 1 has landed. Recovery
And touchdown of Falcon 9 on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you. You can certainly hear the excitement here at SpaceX. Congratulations to the entire SpaceX team for another successful landing. For those keeping track, this is first stage recovery number 46. Back to our primary mission, the second stage is still continuing its journey into its desired orbit. We should be hearing callouts for second engine cutoff very shortly here. And good second engine cut off. Now we're waiting for callouts of a good orbit. It sounds like we do indeed have a good orbit. Up next is deployment of Dragon from that second stage. When Dragon separates from the second stage, we get a glimpse inside of Dragon's trunk. Dragon carries two types of cargo: pressurized cargo inside of the capsule and unpressurized cargo in its trunk. On the outside of Dragon's trunk are two protective fairing for Dragon solar arrays. The arrays produce more than 5 kilowatts of power and help recharge Dragon on its mission. At this point, we are about 20 seconds, 10 or 20 seconds away from Dragon separation. So let's listen in for the callouts. There it is, successful deployment of the Dragon spacecraft. There is a view inside the unpressurized section of of Dragon's trunk. With Dragon deployed, the next major milestone will be deployment of the solar arrays as Dragon makes its way to the International Space Station. Now let's pass it off to Dan for coverage of the solar array deploy.
Hey, thank you very much, Andy. Great to see Dragon in orbit. Really cool, as always, to see that first stage touch back down on the drone ship. So as he mentioned, Dragon now flying free. You're actually getting a really cool view inside the trunk of Dragon, where there's two external payloads. These are payloads that are already exposed to the vacuum of space. One of those, the larger one, is that Hi-SUI. That's the hyperspectral imager from the Japanese government that's going to be installed. The other one's actually a spare battery. We've been doing a bunch of battery upgrades on the International Space Station, switching from older nickel hydrogen batteries to new lithium ion ones. And we are going to be standing by for a couple of minutes until we see those solar arrays deploy. You'll see them unfurl from the sides of the Dragon trunk. It'll eventually give Dragon a wingspan of about 50 feet, a little more than that. And this is actually one of the last few times you're going to see these solar array deploys on a Dragon spacecraft. As they are deploying, there are some additional moving parts in them as compared to the new Dragon design and the Crew Dragon, where those solar cells are actually wrapped around the trunk itself. That does cut down on a few moving parts, some of the things that the engineers have to check out, all the screws, bolts, and things like that, and also the lock nuts, just making sure everything that's in place will actually be integrated into the trunk itself. For those future Dragon missions, and they're going to be switching over to that Dragon type once they start their CRS-2 contract deliveries, which is slated for CRS-21, so just 2 missions from now. But again, still standing by for solar array deploy. We've been hearing some updates from the visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control. Everything so far has looked great with this Dragon so far. Everything nominal, as Josh was explaining, just meaning normal, by the book, on plan, with the trajectory and everything so far. This is actually a view of those solar arrays. We'll start to see those unfurl momentarily.
Dragon is deploying its solar array.
And we did get some audio confirmation that the solar array deploy has begun.
Dragon's propulsion system is successfully primed, and all thrusters are ready for firing.
And there we go, now getting a view of one set of the solar panels deploying. Again, one on each side of Dragon's trunk, giving a wingspan of about 54 feet once fully deployed, providing all of the electrical power to Dragon systems as it makes its chase down of the International Space Station. And everything looking smooth. We'll wait for some audio confirmation that the solar arrays have deployed successfully.
Expected loss of signal, New Hampshire.
We are seeing on video both sets of solar arrays deployed. We're again just going to stand by for some and we just now heard it. The solar arrays have been deployed successfully. The propulsion system on Dragon being primed for some initial firings. Again, Dragon's going to be gradually raising its orbit over the next 2.5 days, until it arrives at the International Space Station.
Dragon solar arrays have successfully deployed and are ready for activation.
All right, so again, Dragon in orbit. Great to see another spacecraft on its way to the International Space Station. As always, back here in Mission Control Houston, I'm now joined by Kenny Todd. He's the Space Station Operations Integration Manager. Kenny, it was a great launch today. How's the team feeling with what they saw so far?
Well, it's always great when we can get a new vehicle on the way to space station. So we're very excited. Looking forward to getting the Dragon on board here in a couple of days.
And so what's it going to look like for the crew? Now the Dragon's on its way, what's the schedule kind of looking like for the crew with coming days, coming weeks now for them?
Sure. This really does kind of lay our path forward here through the end of December on into the first week of January now. An incredible amount of science coming up on board, over 5,000 pounds of new hardware coming on board. And so the crew over the next couple of days will be getting ready. They'll finish out their training for being able to do the capture and the grapple and getting the Dragon berthed, and then after that we'll be opening the hatch shortly thereafter. We've got some science that we need to get across the hatch and get up and running. So that's going to be the first couple of days here when we get going.
And right now it's scheduled to get there on Sunday, correct?
Correct. Well, we have a typical time, usually around 5 or so in the morning, about the time we do the capture operation. That's a standard time for a Dragon capture. Usually by mid-morning we'll have it berthed, and depending on how things have gone during the day for the crew, we'll either get the hatch open or we'll wait till the following day and start with a clean, fresh day and get in and get going on the science.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Obviously, this team going to be very involved with the SpaceX flight controllers out in Hawthorne over the next couple of days as Dragon makes its way there. And we're going to continue all this live coverage once Dragon does arrive. So be sure to wake up really early on Sunday morning and join us as we get ready to bring one more vehicle to the International Space Station. With that, though, that'll do it for us here from Houston. Send it back down to KSC, maybe get you some more launch replays. Back over to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Dan. Joining us now is SpaceX's Andy Tran. Andy, can you tell us a little bit about how launch went today?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Jennifer. We had a beautiful launch off Space Launch Complex 40 today. This was our 20th mission to the space station and our 8th launch with a flight-proven Dragon. I can confirm now that Dragon is in good orbit. The solar arrays have deployed on time, and then the guidance navigation control bay door should be opening later today. Dragon is on its way to the International Space Station and on track for capture on December 8th at approximately 3 a.m. Pacific time or 11 a.m. Coordinated Universal Time. After berthing, the astronauts aboard the International Space Station will unload about 5,700 pounds of crew supplies and payloads. Dragon will then return to Earth after about a month at the orbiting laboratory. All around, it's been a successful mission so far. I want to take this time to thank our friends at NASA, the Air Force, the Federal Aviation Administration, and all of our customers for their support and hard work to ensure today's launch was a success. Back to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Andy. And that's going to wrap up our coverage. For more information, visit nasa.gov/station or nasa.gov/SpaceX. I'm Jennifer Wolfinger, and from everyone here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, thank you for joining us for the successful launch and landing of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket. We leave you now with another look at today's launch. Have a great day, everyone.
10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Engines ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and cargo Dragon, transporting critical research to enable living and working in Earth orbit and in deep space.
vehicle supersonic.